The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Born to be Alive. You're listening to Until Now with Rosie Pico on W4CY Radio, where today we generally always talk to ordinary people with extraordinary experiences, but today's topic has come about because of a recent observation, and I've had so many people share so many comments. I've thought it has to become a topic, and it is about all the digital do's and do nots in today's environment, in today's digital overload, I should say. And we've always been voyeurs as such, you know, people watchers. I mean, I know myself, I love going out because I love being able to see all other people from other walks of life and other dynamics and see what, you know, they do that I wouldn't do, or what they don't do that I wouldn't not do. And as human beings, we generally love a sense of camaraderie. And then there are those that are, you know, the silent stalkers and trolls, or the faceless bullies who like to shame cowardly. And then there are others that are just wanting answers to everything. And today's environment, good old Facebook, that social media, answers all these needs. We're able to be voyeurs in secret. We're able to get a sense of camaraderie by people hitting likes or comments. And yes, you can be a troll if you choose to be, a shameless, faceless coward, and throw up comments just to harm, endanger, or hurt another individual through your comments. And then there's those that are like myself who just want to know as much as possible that they can glean from as many sources as possible. Now, that's a bit of a tip-off to my past history as a police officer and investigator for over 16 years, and as well as an author. I write many books on the subjects. And it's interesting how, as an author, somehow we metamorphose, if there's such a word. We change and all of a sudden become a guru on our topic, that go-to expert, when in reality we are simply another human being. You know, when we know better, we do better. So today's topic is about, and please share it with many others that you know, when you hear something and think, oh, that's just like my friend and wasn't aware of that, share it. Because what this stemmed from originally was we've just had the Easter break and the school holidays here in Australia. For those that have picked up the accent, congratulations. Those that are still trying to work it out, you need to travel a bit more. But anyway, during the Easter holidays, yes, social media sucks our time away. I'm going to get onto that comment that one listener has commented. And if you want to join the conversation, this is a live chat. Go over to w4cy.com, click on the right-hand side, and you can join in. And I've got a lot I'm going to share. And yes, I talk quick. I'll try to slow it down. But, you know, excitement runs away with me at the best of times. But back to this Easter carnival atmosphere, and I live in a holiday destination. You know, people from all over the globe come to the location I live at. We're right near the beaches, we're right near the hinterland, you know, we're right in the center of, you know, where so many activities, fun water sports are happening, and lots of people gather to just have a good time. So it's a great place to live. And during this carnival holiday time, there was many shows put on for the general public. And one of these shows involved a man who not only was a sword swallower, this sword swallower was also a contortionist. And I've seen a few sword swallowing events in my day at different carnivals. However, I've never seen anything as amazing as this guy who was, you know, enclosed in a tent, had center stage, you know, hundreds of people were packed in chairs around to witness what he was doing as he swallowed the sword. He's also doing backflips, like backward handstands, I think they call them these days. In my day, it was called backflips, but where your hands go over behind your head and you flip onto your hands. And he did several of these with a full long sword down his throat. So to say this was heart-stopping as well as incredible and mesmerising to watch is an understatement. However, there was a gentleman several seats away from me, but close enough that I saw him just non-stop on his mobile phone. And every now and then he'd glance up to the stage, but most of his time was preoccupied on this mobile phone. And I'm sort of torn between looking at him to see if he's going to watch the performance as well as watching the performance. Now, the performance won out for me. I was more interested in it, but I kept looking at him thinking, are you going to see it or are you going to miss the whole show? As it turned out, he missed the show. And I'm thinking, what on earth has you so absorbed that a man standing in front of you that you're mere meters away doing backflips with his sword down his throat is not grabbing your attention? I just had to know. And so I sort of leaned over a little bit, and there I could see what he was checking was his Facebook feed. And I just was, we use the term in Australia, gobsmacked, meaning lost for words. I was gobsmacked. And I just thought, you cannot be out in this place amongst all these people. You've gotten front row seat. You've come here to watch this performance, yet you've entirely missed out on the performance. And I bet you any money he was seen there later taking a selfie with the very same man who did a performance that he missed what the man actually did. So I made a comment on my social media, as you do, about just how negative social media has become in our environment. And some comments started coming back in. And on the news, on the television, was again the same comments, as in that our digital tech has become so distracting that it is costing more than your life as in social times. It's physically costing lives. There's over half the accidents in the US today are attributed to phone use. Now, that's astonishing. So that is an immediate loss in fatalities and injuries. In 2015, it was 330,000 accidents caused by texting alone. Now, that is massive. That's a lot of loved ones that are laying there injured and harmed now because of something that was deemed so urgent or had to be answered to so instantly that it was worth that risk. Now, my son, I try to limit tech time with him, and he says, Mum, computers can't be bad. We have them at school. My son is 9 years of age. And I tell him, yes, son, but we used to paint kids' toys with lead once upon a time too. And we used to line houses with asbestos, which we know today kills. And we gave pregnant women a chemical called thalidomide, saying it was good for your baby. And cigarettes were harmful for over 30 years before the companies finally came clean and said, no, they actually do cause cancer. So, yes, today, as one listener has commented, the world runs on the internet these days. We are driven by technology. I'm talking to you thanks to the wonders of technology via, Skype, via the radio, by, radio waves. We utilize microwaves as we reheat our dinner. We watch it on television. We have it in our phones that are permanently at our sides. And that's what I thought. The purpose of the program today, I wanted to give some ideas of what I'm doing. Now, remember, I'm not the go-to guru. Just because, I've featured in another 4 books and written another 4 of my own doesn't make me an expert in anything other than my own life. So everything I say to you, I tell you to trial it, test it for yourself, and you become your own go-to guru in your own life. And again, you share and distribute what works well for you, and if others take it up or throw it in the bin, it's up to them. But the important part for me is that I find tech amazing. It's wonderful. It's incredible. Its energy is not only mind-blowing stuff, it's actually planet-blowing stuff, which is pretty scary when we consider who we've got in politics today in different parts of the world. And I'm not going to go on to that topic because that's a hell of a lot longer than the time I have here today. However, with our technology, understanding that I watched, and you can access it yourself on YouTube, so many videos and so much footage of near misses. That's for the fortunate ones, and the not near misses, which were the hits for the not so fortunate, of people that were reading or texting or scrolling or whatever they were doing on their phones that so distracted them from real life that they were unaware of the big bus they just walked in front of, they were unaware of the tram they just walked in front of, or the vehicles that they just walked in front of. And I've actually physically grabbed back a person at the lights who's stepped out whilst looking down at their phone right in front of a vehicle. That is astounding that we can get so distracted that it can cost us our lives. And, no doubt we'll still be going, what the? What just happened? And this is occurring with more and more people. As a mother, I see children that go on play dates now, and the play dates consist of iPads and phones that they're all sitting around and swapping. Now, I'm guilty, like many others, of using an iPad as a babysitter, when I've had to do meetings and I, wanted my child to be occupied without distracting me. However, that was the time I chose to utilize technology. Does it mean that he got it at home? No, he did not. Does it mean that, when we had friends over, that was a time it came out? No, it does not, because that was about people, no longer about the play things. So I think there's even an app today for digital detoxing. And I discovered as I looked at this topic a little further, just how extensive it's become and how impactful on us. There's actually a term for it for those so connected to the digital age that they can't disconnect, and it's called nomophobia. It sounds like no more phoneobia. And that's exactly pretty much what it means. Nomophobia is just that people go out of their brains, out of their wits when they're out of reception area, when they can no longer feel as if they're connected to the digital stuff. Now, that to me I thought was tragic. I got more examples on my Facebook profile of different terrible scenarios that happen with people, and then everyday common scenarios like people going out to dinner. And instead of talking to the person that they're out to dinner with, they're sitting there scrolling and, they're reading their Facebook feed or their Instagram or checking what likes they've got, or they're taking a selfie out with their friend out to dinner, posting it on Facebook and then watching the likes instead of actually being present and communicating with the person that they're with. And I said, on my Facebook thing, I said my own worst example as far as social etiquette, this so-called social media has become antisocial, was where I'm separated from my son's father. And my son does Taekwondo, and he's done it since the age of 4.5, and he's 9 now. So he can kick butt with the best of them, just like his mother. So at his Taekwondo grading, it was one of the first his father had come along to. And he brought my son's brother, which is half-brother, his father's oldest boy, who was about 16 at the time with him. And they're both sitting there, and both of them are just head down on the mobile phone, scrolling through whatever they're looking at. Now, I was casting them daggers in my looks because I could see my son doing his grading or sitting there waiting quietly at the side and him watching them. And the look on his face was so disappointed that they're meant to be there to watch him. And instead of supporting and encouraging him for all his effort that he did week after week, attending training sessions, which they didn't go to, they've only showed up at the big moment. And in showing up at the big moment, they still couldn't show up. They were physically present, but not mentally or energetically or emotionally present. And that was noticed by a very young child who made the comment to me after saying, "Can you ask Dad to stay off his phone or otherwise not come?" And I thought, how sad is that someone so young can pick up the lack of intention. And as parents, you see that distraction. You see parents walking along on their phones, scrolling, while their kids are tagging along behind them. They've got them present with them, but they're not present with them. They're not showing up with them. Now, I'm not saying this so that you can think, oh, my goodness, I do that. I must be a terrible parent. No, it's a sign of the times. You become a distracted parent. And all of us get distracted by different things. But awareness is half of the battle. To know and not to do is to not yet know. So if we know better, We can now do better. Your kids only want your presence. They just want you being there. And yeah, people are going to be hunchback, always looking at the phones. Yes, that's a sign of the times. I could do a cartoon image of that. The other cartoon image I would do is of a brain surgeon operating on your brain, taking a selfie at the same token, or scrolling through his Facebook feed. You know, there is no one set person who succumbs to this technological tragedy. This is across all professions. And, you know, the top 10 worst cell phone disasters that I was able to find was the death of 5 high school cheerleaders, only because they were killed in a head-on collision, and that was in Western New York in 2007, as text messages were sent just prior to that incident. There was a pregnant Florida woman who was killed by a texting driver. That was the 19-year-old mother-to-be, killed instantly. The other driver was texting at the time. I mean, how do you live with yourself after these things that take up only moments of your life but cause a lifetime of disaster thereafter? You know, that's a really poor choice. Another was a Metrolink engineer's texting activity ended in a deadly commuter crash, and that was in 2008. A Californian Metrolink train carrying commuters collided with a freight train and killed 25 people and injured another 135 passengers. And he was texting with a teenage train enthusiast only seconds before the collision. So it's not just, you know, people walking along the streets, it's people in all their businesses and their occupations. Another transit bus driver was given 30 days jail because he was using his cell phone to send a text message when he crashed in the back of an SUV. So again, there are those that we entrust with our safety are somehow managing to entrust our safety to a device that they're preoccupied with. So we're telling our kids, you know, limit your screen time. Don't be on that, you know, you'll become addicted, etc. But our kids are watching what we do, not what we tell them not to do. So with nomophobia being an actual physical condition now, and they've likened it to gambling addiction. So there's actually, as I said, that an app for detoxing that I've got somewhere. Yeah, it's called the Break Free app. So if you're suffering from an overload, an overdosing digital diet, you can access that Break Free app, and it will give you some tools and strategies in order to minimize and help you replace real life with virtual reality, because we are becoming a bit of a zombie state. You know, people are, you know, walking everywhere, bumping into other people because they're attached to these phones. That level of distraction is affecting us immediately now, but it's also affecting us long-term, way into the future. Now, the interesting part that I was already aware of was that we are energetic beings. You know, we give off thoughts, they're electromagnetic frequencies, and we send and receive a bit like a radio transmitter. So not only do we send and receive, but we also transform a lot of these electromagnetic frequencies that are emitted by other devices. So it's been known by, you know, all electrical devices emit these fields, and so do we. You know, we are electromagnetic beings, whether we accept this information or not. So your mobile emits radiation, and the closer it is to you, the more radiation you're actually receiving from this field of energy. And the effects of exposure have been reported now. There are over 300 scientific research papers that demonstrate the contribution to cancerous effects from this exposure to the radiation. Your body is confused, more or less, with the cells and tissues and organs get disturbed because this radiation works as a physical aggression that affects your metabolism as well as other biochemical reactions. And, you know, you're a walking biochemical factory, really. You have DNA operating all the time. You have waste products that build up within a cell, nutrients that need to come in and out, and all of these biochemical processes occur outside of our general awareness. Doesn't mean they're not happening. We're just unaware of it. Same as the radiation from your mobile phone now. Now, whoever you bought it from, whatever telco company, I'm quite sure there'll be a little disclaimer that will have a warning there, a warning informing you about the radiation field that is being emitted by this telephone now. One of our leading scientists here within Australia, leading Australian neurosurgeon, Dr. Charlie Teo, has gone on record and stated, he was in a documentary 60 Minutes here, and asked, does mobile phone use cause brain cancer? His answer, emphatically, yes. So for those that like to hold their mobile phone next to their heads, next to their brains, keep it there for extended periods of time, day after day after day, and then be surprised at the results. It's just astounding the effects that they're having on us physically. And this information, that radiation, is now known. There's lots of information of how it contributes to tumours as well as cancer. It damages and alters our cells, our cellular structure. I'm just going to read a bit from the biggest cancer killer today for under 30-year-olds is brain cancer, because our highest users today is going to be our young kids and our teenagers. We have, I think it was over 50% that between the 16 17 age bracket already had mobile phones, and that's worldwide, so that's a phenomenal figure to start with. Here's this information that I wanted to read. Mobile phone radiation is the same radiation as inside a microwave oven, and we all know what happens to food that's cooked in a microwave oven. So the current world safety limit for mobile phone radiation is based on a study conducted nearly 20 years ago. The study was based on 6 minutes of calls per day for 3 months on an analog phone. Today's smartphones are several times more powerful than the old analog models. So the biggest problem today is we don't know directly what all these environmental factors are to extended periods of exposure. It's the same as the cigarette argument. It's the same as asbestos argument. It's the same as lead poisoning argument. There are many of them that have gone on well before now that we know how long it takes before legally it's accepted as harming us. So I wouldn't wait till legally it's harmful, though the disclaimers on all the mobile phone products should be a little bit of a heads up to us to say, oh, where can I minimise this actually harming me? So it's in fine print, but it's there, and it will say, warning, do not hold the mobile phone against your body. Remember those EMFs, those electromagnetic frequencies. The closer it is, the more harmful the effect will be. So girls that are going out jogging and pop it into your bra, cases of breast cancer have been directly linked to mobile phones being kept close to the breast for long periods. They're radiating even when you're not on a phone call. And if you're in a low signal area, they'll radiate even higher than normal. So, pregnant women and women, keep the tablets, keep the mobile phones, the electronic devices away from your bodies. Now, kids, they've known their developing brains are much more susceptible to the influence of these EMFs because they haven't developed quite a thick skull as the rest of us that have been around a long term. So the child's brain absorbs up to 10 times the radiation of an adult brain. So, if you've got your child there and you've got that phone there and you're on it permanently, you're exposing them to this radiation. Now, you wouldn't stick their head in a microwave. So again, don't stick a mobile phone onto them for them to play with, to listen with at such a young age. My own child, when he had it, he would actually not have the device near him because I believe once it's a metre away, the EMF exposure is almost negated, as in the effect is so drastically minimised that it's only an incremental effect. And we would utilise headphones, earbuds, so that way it was never against his head. And to this day, I myself, if I'm talking on a phone, I only use earbuds, and the phone is generally about 0.5 metre up to 1 metre, which is several feet for other listeners, away from the body. Men, don't put it in your trouser pockets. Increase in testicular cancer and low sperm count. So the evidence and information is out there. Just go and have a look for yourself. And to date, extensive studies indicate a range of early learning and behavioural disorders in children exposed to mobile phone radiation. So yet no radiation safety tests have ever been carried out for children. So if you think of how many hours teenagers are getting exposed to all of that radiation, it's mind-blowing. Now, this is what Dr. Vinnie Kurani, who's an associate professor of neurosurgery at the Australian National University, warns of the rising increase in brain tumours associated with mobile phone use, noting tumours on the same side of the head as the preferred side for making calls. Now, I did a detox, be about 13, 14 years ago, where this detox was renowned, where, carpenters who worked with a particular type of glue, the glue would then be released from their fingers. You'd physically watch it coming out. Old sunburns would come out in the body that you could actually see it. But in this case, the real estate guy that was present doing the detox with us, he had gunk coming out of his right ear. As it turned out, he was on the mobile phone pretty much all day, every day, just held up to that same right ear day after day. And he had this gunk oozing out of his right ear that I physically saw. So they've noted the tumours are on the same side of the head as the preferred side for making calls. And the Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority in Finland has found that just 1 hour of mobile phone radiation exposure triggered harmful changes in human cells. It is a fact that the radiation changes your cells. Scientists have proven that just a 2-minute phone call affects the electrical currents in the brain for over 1 hour afterwards. So it's becoming more and more vital for us to find ways to minimise our use of these technological devices, especially when they're not becoming social, they're becoming actually antisocial, as we see, people being present with people, not actually really being present with them. So I minimise my radiation exposure by keeping it in a case at all times. And as one listener has commented, where do we find the fine print? Well, you could simply even just Google, whoever is the provider of your phone. But I know Telstra here in Australia provides its warning. It will be in small print, and it will give you a warning about your device. Is this a form of population control? Again, that's another debate that can go for quite a long time. I've got my own personal opinion that, yes, as we're becoming the zombie state, we're watching it and fascinated by it all around us. And the technological devices were made to make our life easier, to free us up from work that was drudgery or difficult or, required greater computations than our brains we felt were capable of. However, now it has overtaken to the point where you see people socially aren't engaged with each other unless it's actively online. Kids and adults are waking up in the middle of the night. They're checking their phones, seeing if they got a tweet, an Instagram, an email to respond, a text. It's like I have difficulty understanding this because I personally love outdoors. I love real life. I love real people. So the virtual world, as much as it is a technological advantage and there are so many wonderful applications of it, in my own life and for my own uses, I love to get on and get off and get out. It's as simple as that. So I do what's necessary. I limit my workload. Like if you work on a computer all day, please do not go home and plug back in. You really need to plug out of that and plug into life. Real people, real food, real conversations. Half these things that are posted on Facebook, the look at me's and the people that go and pay for surgery so that they can have a better selfie is like, seriously? Is that what your life is destined to become, that you are subject to the verdict of other people that mean nothing to you, that many of them you've never met, may never meet, may not have anything to do with, yet you're wanting their approval. That's about the most powerless state and a perfect position for population control, if ever there was one, because you are being brainwashed by masses that mean nothing. Now, my Facebook is populated by people that I know and that I've met or that I have some work involvement with. So, and those that soon are trolling or rude or disrespectful or aren't sharing beneficially, only sharing superficially, I soon get rid of. I want to share what inspires or what contributes. I don't want to see what every meal is that you eat or what your first and last thought is or every aspect of your day or how many times you went to the toilet or, that doesn't hold my attention. Yet there are people there that seem to think, oh, that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to know. Now, there might be people nodding their heads going, hey, but Rosie, that's what I share. That's what I like. Well, then I would say, go out and live more of life. Don't worry about posting on Facebook. And from being an ex-cop, the last thing I would share on Facebook is where you're going to and the events that you're going to, and especially, pictures of your children. Share it after the fact, where you've been and what you've done. Keep safety paramount in mind because there is the ability for anyone and everyone to access your information at all times. And people think, oh no, I can just delete it off there, it won't be seen. Well, no, it remains on your hard drive, permanently etched, permanently. That's what, forensic digital information is. It's being able to detect the undetectable. Now, going back to minimizing your radiation exposure, what I do, as I said, I keep my phone in an actual case. So that way, if it's carried in my handbag, I've got several layers before it's close to my body. I use earplugs when I talk. That way, again, it's not close to me. Right now, I use a headset. I'm not close to the device. At the device itself, because it gives off these positive ions, and positive ions have a negative effect on our body. Sounds positive, but it's not. It's negative. So it works like free radicals. They damage cells within our body, and cells no longer communicate clearly and cleanly to each other, and you get mixed messages. Now, this doesn't happen instantaneously. This is an accumulated effect over time. That's why people think, oh, but I've been on the computer for, I don't have a problem. It's like eating that one donut. It doesn't show up on your belly in the instant that you ate it. And it will probably forgive you if you stuck at one. But if you did it on a daily basis and you increased the number that you are consuming, there's an obvious effect accumulated over time. It's the same digitally. There's an accumulated exposure to radiation that is occurring on yourself and your loved ones over time. And by the time we're aware of it, then it's so hard to undo that process that's been done. So now that we're getting exposure to a lot of positive ions, what I use in my home is salt lamps everywhere near an electronic device. And the salt lamps simply work to release negative ions, which is the same you get if you walk by the ocean, if you walk in a rainforest. It is just that natural form of energy that when a positive ion meets a negative ion, they counteract each other, so there's none that exists. So it's creating more of a neutral space. So wherever I have electronic devices, that's what I choose to have. So the bigger television I have, the bigger salt lamp I have sitting right beside it. Now, for those that are sleeping with devices nearby, keep them at a distance of over preferably not in the room. I can think of a lot better things to put in my bedroom, and it ain't a mobile phone. This is where real life always is so much better. Get real sleep, connect with real people, enjoy that process, not relegating people to be less important than whatever news is coming through in that moment. Now, for some digital don'ts whilst driving, it shouldn't even be a comment that I have to raise as communication. However, I'm going to, because there are so many people addicted. Those that are addicted, it's estimated between 10 and 12% That's according to the director of the Centre for Internet and Technology Addiction. Now, if a centre has to be created for internet and technology addiction, that means that's a serious amount of cell phone users that have got a problem. So they've found that around 90%, and their statistics are American, so I share American, of Americans fall in the category of overusing, misusing, or abusing their devices. And 50% of teenagers feel that they are addicted to their devices. How do you know that you're addicted? Well, I'd say the first sign would be, and, I know a little bit about addictions. I was once married to an alcoholic, and I myself was a cigarette smoker for a good 16 years before, I turned 30 and decided that enough was enough and chose to quit. So, and I know the challenges of addictions, but they've stated that, those that check the phone first thing in the morning, right before they go to bed, anxious if the battery is running under 10%, tap on their phone while in line at the coffee shop, continue tapping away, all the way through drinking their coffee, checking their phone during meetings, shows, that constant checking is part of the addiction. If it's interfering with your real life, it's part of an addiction. And they liken it that smartphones are like the world's smallest slot machine, saying that just like slot machines, they get, reinforcements regularly. So once in a while, a reward, a piece of information like a text, an email, or an update, something comes through that you go, that is that addiction. It's a dopamine release. And this is the same reinforcement schedule that happens with the slot machine. You keep playing for a while, you see ordinary stuff, but every now and then you get something that excites you that, this might be it. Well, it's the same with checking our phones. And each of these little rewards releases this dopamine, which stimulates the pleasure center of our brain, where this chemical is released that makes us feel good and wants us to keep on doing more of whatever made us feel good. So with internet, Twitter, and texting, you've got that instant gratification of the desire that you seek. If you want to talk to someone right away, you can send a text and you'll get a message pretty quick back. You can put a comment there and, you'll get responses. I've seen, one guy that I used to work with that is like, the drama dean, every day it is just such a massive incident and it's inviting in all these people to comment. And, apparently this is what that life is now revolving around, that virtual reality instead of that real reality that is occurring. So this misuse of our devices is taken over into our own lives. And sadly, it is an issue. It's a massive issue that they've created apps for it. They've created centres for it to deal with it. So where possible, as a former addict only of cigarettes, so therefore I'm on the minor scale, but I knew one thing: in order to be able to change that addiction, I had to face the fact that I first off did have an addiction, that cigarettes was controlling me. If I could have smoked in the shower, I would have. I was that addicted at the time. So once I become aware of it, then I had to minimize my use of it. So I created one spot and one spot only where that was the only place I could ever have a cigarette. So I had to disassociate smoking with anything pleasurable. So I put it outside. I put it in an area that had no cover. I put it where I wasn't allowed to have a cup of coffee, read a newspaper, do anything else other than that one thing I was doing. So electronically, if you're going to go on a digital diet or, your detox digitally, I would suggest you find ways that you can make it less pleasurable. And because we tend to avoid things that are painful, that's why a lot of people don't give up smoking, because they see it as being painful. They associate smoking with pleasure. And I'm using the comparison with cigarette smoking because that's what I know. That's what I can relate it to. You might have another experience that that you can relate it to help those that are digitally overusing. So minimize your use, set a schedule that this is my time and this is my time limit. Use your stopwatch on that technological device so it sets off an alarm to let you know that you're going over time, because you'll be surprised. And as many people have discovered, you go on to, make one comment and, an hour and a half has lapsed and you look and go, oh my God, where'd that time go? This is time you could have been spending with loved ones, your family that is around, that I can guarantee you if they walked out with their mobile phone and got hit by that proverbial bus, the next day you would be wishing you could have that time back again. So don't wait till it's too late to take action. Become more social by disengaging digitally. So driving, it's not urgent, wait. Allocate time for your use. You might know, I'm going to be standing in queues, or I'm going to be waiting, at the DMV, or I'm going to be at another public place that I have to sit and wait for ages. Use that time, catch up on your social media. That makes, time that could be not so exciting pass easily. Personally, for me, I still like people watching more than phone watching. When you are socializing with other people, grab that selfie and get off. Have your fun with friends. Make it real. Post all that information after the fact. It's also for your safety. Be safety smart with the social media. So limit your time. Get on, get off. Connect, get out. Otherwise, it's overkill. Too much sharing, oversharing. We've all seen that in different people's feeds. That stuff is there forever. The fact that you post about someone's ex, you post about your ex, you post about a friend, you post, any hateful comment, you can't take it back. There's no do-over. It's there permanently. So it doesn't work in your favor. And yeah, exactly. What if you work on it? What if you are required day in to day out? Well, get a salt lamp near your desk for starters. And again, energetically, understanding that you are a light energy frequency being. So fill yourself. There's a technique to fill yourself with complete bright white light. Now, there will be people going, energy, smenergy, Rose. I'm not so sure about that. Well, that's what MRIs are. You don't go into the doctor's office and go, energy, smenergy. How can that read my energy and tell me about it? You accept it. Again, the results will be the proof in the pudding. So what you do is simply in a quiet place, fill yourself with the brightest, whitest light from the crown of your head. Let it completely flow in, completely filling your entire body. Every blood vessel, every muscle tissue, every nerve fiber, every part of your being, feel it absorbing this bright white light. And as it completely flows in from the crown of your head, down past your shoulders, completely filling you up, down past your chest, your stomach, and down your legs, feel this all-encompassing, pure, potent power of the stuff that makes every other stuff. It is phenomenal. Let it fill you up. As it fills you up, see it encircling your body like an egg, like a cocoon, completely wrapped in it. Absolutely nothing can pass through it. It's like a force field of feel-good energy. And nothing can pass through other than what is for your highest good, other than works for you. Anything that detracts or takes away from you or is toxic to you is simply bounce back off the outside of this. So it's like a cocoon of protection of pure white light. That's a technique that is utilized by the elite athletes, by corporate executives. They utilize it at see in mind what they want in reality. But I'm utilizing it now for our technological world that we're in, so that all we can enjoy our tech stuff and have that tech stuff transform in a way that it's returned to the sender. So that energy that's bouncing off the computer is returned back to the computer. From the televisions, it's returned back to the television. It's returned back to its pure source. And that way we stay in our own element and aspect, continually recharged. If you are under fluorescent lights, it's the same thing. You need to get out in pure sunlight. You need to refresh. You need replacement therapy. Part of my giving up cigarette smokes is knowing if I'm going to take that away, what activity can I replace it with? If you're going to take away your digital time, what are you going to replace it with? Replace it with real time. Things that recharge you, that revitalize you, that reawaken you, that give you back life. And those natural energy boosters are out in the sun, out in clean air, wherever you can get it, wherever air is produced, in parks, in nature, in water, by bodies of water, oceans, waterfalls, creeks, lakes, even man-made bodies of water, dams, it makes no difference. Breathe it in, get movement into the body, stimulate the senses. And you stimulate the senses by naturally filling up, not artificially in that virtual world. So in plugging back into nature, it naturally recharges us and works for us. Minimize, your digital diet, so there are some digital do's. I said for people, what's your biggest faux pas? And for a lot, it's we forget about other people. For social media, it's not so social. It's actually pretty antisocial. So a digital do is be polite. If you're on your mobile phone in public places, don't talk out loud. Not everyone wants to hear, and my mate said to me, like it was so cool, and they all came out and we don't want to hear what you like and don't like. Don't talk aloud in public places. Get a room, for God's sake. Be considerate of others. You're not on devices when you're out with friends or others. Be with those friends or others. Be with your family. Be with your loved ones, not just Valley Girl. Now, Valley Girl, I'm not sure what that is that a listener has commented. Might be a show I don't get. Maybe I've just impersonated someone I've psychically picked up on, or a few Aussie kids are listening to it here. Minimize your screen time. Love yourself enough that your real world does not overtake your virtual world. This is your respect and your value for you. As you do it, those watching you will copy and imitate what you do. If you're on the phone and you're distracted and you're telling your kids, go out and play, it's an oxymoron. It's a message that's missed. It's, rather ironic. And ironic, I've got to find this. There was an ironic example of a cell phone death that was shared in the New York Post. One of the more ironic deaths in recent memory was a 30-year-old female driver who died while updating her Facebook. And what she was updating on the Facebook was she was citing a Sunny study estimating that 10% of all ER visits, emergency room visits, are cell phone related. Now that's pretty ironic considering that was her last ever message that she got to share with the world, and she became one of those statistics at the same time. So minimize your screen time and use it beneficially, not superficially. Use it as a time that's going to enhance and empower your life and the life of others. Share, inspire, contribute by all means, but not at the cost of yourself. Technology today is a killer in more ways than one. We've invited it into our home space and our home place, and we've personally attached it to our being. Now it's time to digitally disengage where we can and reconnect with reality where we can. The more moments that we make matter, the more that adds up to a life that matters, and the life matters to us. And, being distracted only momentarily is all it takes for these tragic accidents to have occurred. And as I said, it's across all professions, it's across all ages, and it has, become an invasion that we are creating, young children that are being programmed by whatever's on social media, that, that number of likes, that instant gratification of growing a crowd amongst people that we've never met or had anything to do with, has, got more value than what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So utilize that tech. Carpe diem was just that. It meant go out and seize the day. It wasn't, carpe diem and toss the tech. We realize and recognize where it adds value and enhances our lives, and then where it takes away from our lives. So for all my listeners, for those that want more audio information, go to www.kickbuttwith1t.com.au. There are tons of articles and audios for those that want a digital overload. For those that don't, go out and seize the day. Till next week. You've been listening to Rosie Pica.